This is the accusation tearing through comment sections right now. Electric cars have gotten so heavy that they're secretly pulverizing our roads, cracking our bridges, and quietly draining the budget that keeps it all paved. The story comes with a villain, a hidden cost, and a number big enough to make any taxpayer furious. But there's a rule called the Fourth Power Law that explains everything, and it completely flips this viral accusation on its head. Buried inside all that outrage is exactly one piece of real, settled physics that almost nobody shouting about it actually understands. So let's pull the engineering out of the noise, because the truth is stranger than the headline, and in one very specific way, it's more alarming. Start with the part that's true, because there is a true part. Road damage doesn't rise in a straight line with weight. This is the single most counterintuitive fact in all of pavement engineering. And once you understand it, you can't unsee it. Double the load pressing down on an axle, and you don't do twice the damage to the road. You do roughly 16 times the damage. Engineers call it the Fourth Power Law. The damage a vehicle does to a road climbs with the fourth power of its axle load. The rule came out of a massive real-world experiment in the late 1950s, when American highway officials built a closed test track in Ottawa, Illinois, and ran loaded trucks over it in endless loops until the pavement failed, measuring exactly how it broke down. That pattern has governed how we build roads ever since. Here's what the fourth power means in practice. An 18,000-pound axle, what engineers call the equivalent single-axle load, or ESAL, does over 3,000 times more damage to pavement than a 2,000-pound axle. Not 3 times, 3,000. The math is brutal, and it isn't gentle on heavy things. So when someone tells you a heavier vehicle does disproportionately more damage to the road than a lighter one, they're absolutely right. That's the kernel of truth the whole viral story is built around, and electric cars are heavier. There's no dodging that. The battery pack alone can make up as much as a quarter of an EV's total weight, and once you add the structure to protect it, a typical electric car runs about 20 to 30% heavier than the gasoline version of the same vehicle. A petrol car around 3,500 pounds becomes an electric one closer to 4,400. Ford's F-150 Lightning can weigh 2,000 to 3,000 pounds more than the combustion version. So the premise sounds airtight. Heavier cars do more road damage, EVs are heavier, so EVs must be destroying the roads. That's where the physics turns around and bites the headline in half. That same fourth power law, the one that makes weight so destructive, is exactly what proves electric cars aren't the ones wrecking your road. Run the numbers honestly. The fourth power curve is so steep that it sorts the entire vehicle world into 2 groups, things heavy enough to matter, and everything else. A fully loaded semi-truck rolling down the interstate can do as much damage to the pavement as several thousand passenger cars. One truck, thousands of cars. That's not a figure of speech, it's the load equivalence math that transportation departments use to plan road maintenance. So where does a heavier electric sedan land on that curve? Down in the noise. The people who study this for a living are blunt about it. Load-related damage to pavement and bridges comes almost exclusively from heavy trucks, and the wear from a single large truck can equal that of thousands of automobiles. The extra few hundred pounds on an EV against that backdrop is a rounding error. It's a teaspoon of water in a flood that was already happening. Put another way, the fourth power law is the prosecution's star witness, and when you actually put it on the stand, it clears the electric car and points straight at the freight industry, which has quietly been doing more than 90% of the damage the entire time. The roads were never being destroyed by Teslas. They were being destroyed by the truck that delivered everything in your house. If the pavement panic is mostly myth, why does this story refuse to die? Because the weight is real, and there are 3 places where it genuinely, measurably bites. They're just not the places the headline points to. Quick thing before we get to the part that should actually worry you. If you're the kind of person who wants the real engineering instead of the rage bait version, the physics, the crash tests, the numbers that don't fit on the thumbnail, That's the entire reason this channel exists. We take one braking or vehicle safety question every week and run it all the way to the bottom. Subscribe and you'll have the whole series, because the guardrail story I'm about to show you connects directly to 3 other videos we've already done. Okay, back to it. The first place the weight actually bites is the one almost nobody saw coming, and it has nothing to do with the road surface. It's the guardrail. In October 2023, engineers at the University of Nebraska's Midwest Roadside Safety Facility lined up a 7,000-pound Rivian R1T electric pickup and ran it into a standard highway guardrail at 60 miles an hour. This is the kind of barrier installed along tens of thousands of miles of American road, the metal ribbon that's supposed to catch a car and keep it from going over an edge or into oncoming traffic. The Rivian went through it, not over it, not into it, through it, with barely any reduction in speed, and it kept going until it slammed into a concrete barrier on the far side. The cab was almost untouched. In a separate test, a Tesla Model 3, much lower to the ground, did the opposite failure. It lifted the guardrail and slid clean underneath it. The engineers were direct about the cause. These barrier systems were never designed to handle vehicles heavier than about 5,000 pounds. A huge share of new electric trucks and SUVs sail right past that limit. NHTSA has flagged this issue, and the danger here is sharp and immediate in a way that slow pavement wear simply isn't, because the entire job of a guardrail is to keep a vehicle from leaving the road. Roughly half of all traffic deaths happen in runoff road crashes. A barrier that a heavy EV ignores is a barrier that fails at the exact moment it matters most, and it can fail for the lighter car behind it too, because a guardrail knocked loose by one heavy vehicle won't be there to catch the next one. This is the part of the weight story that's genuinely urgent. It isn't slow, it isn't theoretical, and it isn't solved. We've upgraded barrier standards before as cars got bigger, and we can do it again, but redesigning, testing, and reinstalling guardrails across an entire country takes years, and the heavy vehicles are already on the road. The second place the weight bites is closer to home for this channel, because it's about the brakes, and it's the most surprising part of the whole story. You'd assume a heavier car chews through brake pads faster and throws off more brake dust. For a gas car, sure, but most EVs barely use their friction brakes at all thanks to regenerative braking. When you lift off the accelerator, the electric motor runs backward and becomes a generator, using the car's momentum to refill the battery and slowing the car in the process. With one pedal driving, a huge share of everyday stopping happens through the motor, and the actual brake pads only step in for hard or emergency stops. The result is genuinely counterintuitive. Despite being heavier, EVs can throw off dramatically less PM 2.5 brake particulates. Studies of EV-heavy cities have measured brake dust emissions dropping by around 80%. Add up all the airborne particles a car sheds, brakes, tires, and road wear, and battery cars have come out producing roughly 38% less total particulate pollution than gas cars in real-world driving. Here's the honest other half. That win isn't free. The same weight the pavement shrugs off still has to be carried by 4 tires, and heavier cars scrub more rubber off their tires and grind more grit off the road surface. So the EV quietly wins the brake dust battle and gives some of it back at the tire. The net depends on how it's driven. In stop-and-go city traffic, where Regan does the most work, the EV tends to come out ahead, and on empty open road it can fall behind. It's a trade, not a catastrophe, which is the opposite of what destroying implies. The third place the weight bites isn't physical at all. It's financial, and it's the real engine under this entire panic. Roads are mostly paid for by fuel taxes, a few cents folded into every gallon of gasoline. Drive a gas car, and every mile you put on the road also pays a little toward repaving it. Drive an electric car and you buy no gasoline, which means you pay nothing into that fund while using the road exactly the same. As the fleet goes electric, the pot that pays for maintenance shrinks even though the wear doesn't. So when people say electric cars are destroying our roads, What's actually true underneath the bad physics is that EVs are quietly draining the budget that repairs them. That's why states have started charging electric cars special annual registration fees to make up the gap, and others, like Oregon and Utah, are experimenting with vehicle miles traveled taxes that charge drivers by the mile instead of by the gallon. The crisis is real. It's just an accounting crisis, not a structural one, a hole in the budget rather than a crater in the asphalt. So put the whole thing back together. Is the headline true? The pavement part, the image of millions of EVs grinding our highways into dust, is mostly a myth, and the very law of physics people cite to prove it is the same law that clears it. Heavy trucks were doing that damage long before the first electric car rolled out of a showroom, and they still do nearly all of it today. But the weight isn't harmless. It's just dangerous in places the outrage never looks. Guardrails that let a heavy vehicle punch straight through at highway speed. A brake-and-tire trade that's more nuanced than either side admits. A road funding system that was never built for cars that don't burn fuel. Nothing here is literally banned, but engineers and regulators are now openly asking the question hiding inside that clickbait word. At some point, does a passenger vehicle get heavy enough that the infrastructure itself has to push back? That's the real story, not a cover-up. A country quietly discovering that its roads, its barriers, and its budgets were all designed around a weight limit nobody ever wrote down, and a new kind of car that keeps creeping past it. Here's where it gets personal for anyone who actually drives one of these. We just said EVs barely touch their friction brakes because regen does the work. So what happens on the morning regen suddenly stops working? When it's freezing out and the battery won't take the charge, and the one pedal you've trusted for 2 years just doesn't slow the car? That's not hypothetical, and it's exactly what we break down next in Cold Weather is Quietly Killing Your EV's Brakes. Watch that one before your next winter drive. I'll see you there.